Hello and welcome back to tentatively called Amaze game vloggy stuff. Um, since last time I posted, I was saying I was really like tired of what I was doing, and just the simple act of looking at my project was draining, and I had like a mental block on it wasn't working how I wanted it to, and I wasn't happy with where it was going. Um, so I went back in, and after posting that video, it really, I think every time I post one of these, I get the encouragement to keep going, because it's hard. It's hard to do these things. And the stuff that's coming up is stuff that I'm not excited about doing. Learning how to work with widgets and make a UI is not in what I would consider sexy. So I think I got to a good point where I'm pretty happy with where I'm going, and it's not going to take a million years to like beat myself up to build out each level. That's where it was. I was using splines, and they're very heavy, and they didn't do what I wanted them to, and so I changed how it works. So yeah, my mouse is visible in the capture. Okay, so what you can see here is I changed that. I'm not using spline curves anymore. They suck and they're no fun. So what I did was I set up an mouse overlap. Bound my mouse overlap to an event, and anytime the mouse overlaps a cell, it turns blue and it records it into my array, and that significantly helps. And since I did this, I also pulled out when it starts checking for a solution, or when I have my goal, which is the green dot way down there that we're about to approach here. And when you reach the green dot, then it starts to check. Before, it was checking every array item on tick, which was terrible, because if you got over like around 300 entries, which this maze is 293 cells just to solve it. So if you got a little over 300, it just lagged. And that's because I'm doing a lot of really bad things, probably, like multiple for loops on tick, and they rely on each other, which is just bad ideas. I'm not doing smart things here, which is something I have to still get to. I have to figure out how to pull it off a tick so that it's not trying to do each for loop every single time we try to tick, which I'll probably set it up based off of like each time after the goal has been selected, there's an overlap check if you have the solution. That way people can play from however they want. Right now, if you play this and you start at the end and then you get a fair way into the maze, it's gonna start to chug still. So I do a couple different checks. Let me see if I can pull up Unreal and show you the checks I'm doing currently. Okay, here it is. So like I said, doing things on tick feels bad, so I have to figure out how to get this out of a tick and more into checking at certain intervals that have nothing to do with tick, because I feel like that's a major killer for the performance at some point. Basically, if you start from the end and you get in a couple hundred or so, or even 100, I think, it thinks about these for loops. But what I'm doing currently is first I'm checking if my solution and the cells that I've passed through are greater or equal than in length. And if that's true, I have my debug in there, and we get past that first check, and then if my solution has the maze goal in it, it contains it, then it starts doing major for loop stuff where it double checks if you actually have the solution, which was a fun little array math setup that I had to do with a resize and adding arrays by array index, which helped me check if they were eventually exactly the same. And if they're the same, you win. And this works. It works great. And since I set it up, I think it's way nicer than anything I've done so far. But we're still connected to the tick, which is bad. But since I'm doing this on overlap, I had to change how this works. So bind event on begin cursor overlap, and then I wanted it to feel intentional, which makes it also kind of annoying. I wanted it to be intentional. I didn't want to just wave my hand through and eventually get a solution. So currently I have it set up to on mouse click through my controller, which also could probably be done better, but we have to start somewhere, I think. And this is where it is. So I wanted it to feel intentional. So if your mouse click is clicked before you overlap and then you overlap the cell you want, you create an entry into the array. So you tick the box to be blue, like you could see in that video. And then it sends a cast to add this cell's location into the array, which again has been working really nicely, and it just kind of works, which is really cool. There's some features that I'm thinking of re-adding for these big mazes, which it really splits the game into two different concepts. Do you just want to solve the maze, or do you want to solve the maze quickly? Because I could always add a timer and you get more stars or something based off of how long it takes you. Or if it's just to solve a maze, maybe I add the splines back as like a guide where you can trace out without actually having to put the mouse down like I'm doing here. And then commit the trace, like the line spline, as a committed line action. But that splits it up. If you're trying to go fast, you don't want to have like a test pattern, which kind of reminds me, like if you play any Sudoku on an app, you're able to like note which squares could have that number in the corner. And that's kind of the concept where you could like test your line, and if you think you're good, you hit a thing on the screen, it commits it to your solution gets checked, and if you solved it, you have you beat the level. But they kind of feel like they counter each other, so I'll have to figure out if they're the same thing or not. But I don't know. It's all a debate until it happens in my head, and a lot of this happens often in frequently while I'm thinking of what I want to do with this game. Speaking of things that I want to do with this game, I had to like plot out what I wanted my menus to look like the flow basically. And this isn't a complicated thing I'm doing here. I want like a settings button. Maybe there's some settings that need to be set. My hope is the graphical draw on your computer is going to be so low that I can get it to run on phones. So I don't know what kind of settings that would entail. Maybe there's some credits in there or whatever. But there's a button that says you go. That go takes you to a bunch of levels. And you select those levels, it takes you, you play the game, tells you win. You can go to the next level and it gets a little harder. There's always an option to go back to the menu to select a different level. And in some cases, there'll be like a close button. Obviously, if you're playing windowed, in a windowed mode, it already has that. If you're in an app, you just like swipe away or whatever. But there's some way to easily close the game out when you're playing on PC or whatever. So I had to like think about that, and I just noticed that you're not seeing everything there. But yeah, it just very simple grid-based levels with numbers, so you know how difficult it is. The maze is this is the actual game, and then when you win, it says good job. It gives you that dopamine hit, and then you go back in for some more, or you go back out, and you're just trying to get like 3 stars on all of them. So you're going through and just beating the ones that you haven't. So you go out and back in and out, and it's not complicated. So I have the idea. Now I just have to execute in widgets and hope that I don't build something so poorly that it ends up being heavy while I just worked at all this time to make the actual like maze part not heavy. So we'll see how that goes. I'll update you when I get to that point. I've already started looking into widgets and building out stuff like that, and it makes my head hurt currently. So hopefully in a little bit I'll get to a point where I'm excited about laying out these things. Let me know, do you get that way in any part of your development? Do you get to a point in your art or in a game or in something that you're doing and I don't know, do you transition from hating something to liking it, or do you burn out on a new thing very quickly and then come back around to it at some point? Or is it just the way my brain works? Am I tricking myself into doing a thing that I don't want? I don't know. But I'm super excited about building levels right now. I feel like I have a good flow. The levels are auto-generating again. Before I had to delete a bunch of stuff. Got past that, so I feel like it's gonna start moving a lot smoother. I'll have to decide, maybe I roll some dice and figure out how many levels I build in the first iteration, and that's just a constant thing, so I have to figure out what's next. So for now, I'm just gonna build out a bunch of levels and start testing them to make sure it's not laggy. I think we got to a good point. As long as I play from A to B and not B to A, it runs really smoothly. So we'll have to see what we do there. I have all these things I can think of to try to accommodate for if you start at the end and try to work your way forward. The length should help, but if you go the wrong way once, then it's going to slow down significantly. So I need to figure out something. I have to figure out something. So if not everyone's going to play the game like I am, I'm going to say start here and they're going to start in the middle. I'm going to say start here, they're going to start at the end. So I have to figure out a way to not punish people for playing the game how they want to be. Another really exciting challenge while building out this very, like, it's so simple. I just want people to solve mazes, because that's all I can think about is solving mazes. It's super fun and interesting to me, so I want to bring that to you. But now I think this is a good place to leave it off. I'm going to go back to building more levels, and hopefully the next time I drop in, I have a UI and I can show you all of this working. It'll be super exciting, because that'll mean I'm super close to just putting it out there and seeing if anybody responds to it. And then I can jump into the next thing, because there's so many other things I want to do with mazes. Go back to video 1 and you'll see me ramble about all the things I want to do with the concept of mazes as a game mechanic. We're getting too long for now. If you want to keep following me on this journey, hit that subscribe. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up. And until next time, see you around.